bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Well, good evening. Fade to Black. Spoke Radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Wednesday, August 18th, 2021. 231 days into the new year, only 144 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in the middle of nowhere, a total undisclosed location. But it is beautiful. It is. It truly is. Love it. I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States. Hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the planets. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? All right. You've been waiting for this. Tonight, very special guest, Professor Avi Loeb is here. Going to be talking about the Galileo Project. And that's it for the week, because tomorrow night I'm taking the night off. And I'm going to remind you throughout the show tonight. I will inevitably get an email. Dude, where's the show? Where's Fader night? Where's the show? Dude, it's not on the podcast. Not my problem. I've been telling you all week. I'm taking tomorrow off. I've got a very busy weekend in front of me. I am working. So don't you worry. I'm not relaxing. I won't be, margaritas by a pool. Oh, God, that sounds so great. So great. I don't know if I would dive in the pool. Well, I would if there was nobody there. Right? I would do it. But anyway, no margaritas by the pool. I am working all weekend. But tonight it is Professor Avi Loeb. And also going on, today's the 18th, the Making Contact Conference. And some of you are over there. Some of you are hanging out over there instead of being over here, I would assume. But that is going on right now. And also, in the description box below, I have the Making Contact Conference. It is there. It's going on for the next 5 days, so you can click. And I'm hoping the promo code is still good, right? Try it. I'm sure it's still good. So you can go and get registered for that. I will be doing appearances throughout the weekend, and I will be there for my presentation on Saturday night. Also, in the description box below is the Conscious Life Expo. So I want you to go and click on that. The promo code is there for that too as well, which is Jimmy. And that is going on. That's an in-person event in Los Angeles at the LAX Hilton. It's 2 cities, 2 countries, Los Angeles and London, going on September 17th, 18th, and 19th. Promo code is Jimmy. Super low ticket prices for that and day passes. So just come out and hang out with us. I'll have the Fade to Black booth there as well. It is, I just can't wait for that conference. Coming up right after that is Star Works USA in Laughlin, Nevada. That's in November. So we're still a few months out from that, but there you go. Nice, full end of the year conference season coming up. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's right. Who is Avi Loeb? I heard this on Jeopardy last month when watching with my parents. Is that true? Sarah Ann, I got your email. Sarah Ann last month. It was weird. Okay, I'll admit it was weird because on Fader night, Sarah Ann calls in, and then right after that, a few minutes later, was Carrie from Palm Springs, and they sound alike. And I thought, and I messed up. It was like totally weird. Because when I heard Sarah Ann's voice, I was thinking it was Carrie from Palm Springs, who I had just hung out with in Laughlin, and I said all this crazy stuff. Anyway, Sarah Ann sends me this email. She's like, Jimmy, I think you thought I was somebody else. And I was like, oh, I did. Oh, it's so funny. Sarah Ann, we love you. It's good to see you in the sandbox. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. The sandbox right now, which is going off, is hashtag F2B. I was already over on YouTube before the show. I haven't had a chance to get over to Spreaker, but hello to everybody over there. YouTube, Facebook, KGRA, Raise Hobbs, KGRA, and there you go. All right. As you can tell, I am in a great mood, and things are going down very quickly. I mentioned at the end of the show last night that this Monday I will have, I'm not going to announce everything just yet because I want it all to be a surprise for Monday night. But Monday night, one of the films that I am working on that was just completed is getting ready to get into a film festival. So the movie company and the director all said, "Hey, Jimmy, let's announce all of this on Fade to Black." So what we are going to do Monday night, I'm going to have the director of the film here, and there's that part. Second, we are going to do the world premiere for the trailer here on Fade to Black. So you're going to get to see that first. You got a movie poster, all of that. Everything is going to be revealed on Monday night, and I am so excited. So I've been dealing with that this week. Then there is the second film that was just completed as well, and all the preparations for that and the premiere. That is coming up. I have mentioned to everybody about a new TV series. That is now in the works too as well. So all of these announcements are going to be happening over the next couple of weeks, and I am just absolutely excited. I'm walking around like 4 inches off of the ground right now. I'm very, very happy. Worked really hard all year on all of these projects. And, and they take a while to get done. You have post-production, you have this and that, contract, this, agents, all that stuff is involved. And it seems like it's never going to get done. Now, just like it's pouring and raining all at the same time. That in combination with all of these conferences. And another little side note, over the next month, and this is really weird, going through September, I'm appearing on some other radio shows, and that's pretty cool. So all of this is just like just happening at the same time. So I'm in a great mood. All right, now that being said, let's get to the breaking news. Are you ready? Story number one. I got to get some sound bites. Number one, and just hit the button. Number two, is that too radio? Is that too radio? I remember back in the old days of Fade to Black when I took everything so serious. All right, I got the first news story tonight, and I've got to share. So now I'm all about the circus. Story number one. A burial crypt next to Hugh Hefner and Marilyn Monroe is up for sale with bids starting at $2 million. $2 million. It's currently owned by the family of the late Jerry Herman. Now, it's up. Now, is it up for sale or is it up for auction? Okay, but anyway, the starting bid is $2 million. Right next to Hugh Hefner, Marilyn Monroe. The crypt is located at Pierce Brothers Westwood Village Memorial Park in Los Angeles, the final home for many celebrities like Natalie Wood, Dean Martin, Farrah Fawcett, and Truman Capote. Herman, that's right, Herman was known for Hello, Dolly. That's right, he wrote that. And he originally purchased the crypt in 1997 for $75,000. And that's what, by the way, that's what Hugh Hefner paid. $75,000 to be next to Marilyn Monroe. But apparently, with inflation and the state of the 2021 dollar, that price is now $2 million. All right. Let's get to Elon Musk and Starlink. Starlink satellites are responsible. Now, listen to this. Are responsible for more than 50% of close encounters in space. Satellite constellation operators are constantly forced to move satellites due to encounters with other spacecraft and space debris. And thanks to increase the number of dangerous approaches on Starlink satellites. The operators looked at data dating back to May 2019 when Starlink was first launched. Since then, the number of encounters acquired by the Socrates database has more than doubled, and Starlink now accounts for half of all encounters, of close encounters. Friggin' Elon. Chinese debris, right? We're talking about close encounters, right? Well, a Chinese satellite got whacked, like killed by a hunk of Russian rockets. That's right. And this happened back in March. We know that back in March of this year, the United States Space Force's 18th Space Control Squadron reported the breakup of the Yunhai 102, a Chinese military satellite that launched in September of 2019. It was unclear at the time whether the spacecraft had suffered some kind of failure, like an explosion in its propulsion system, or if it had collided with something in orbit. Well, we now know that the latter explanation is correct thanks to astrophysicist Jonathan McDowell, who's based at, once again, the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics in Cambridge, Massachusetts. McDowell spotted an update in the spacetrack.org catalog, which the Space Force makes available to registered users. The update included, quote, a note for object 480781996-051Q, and the note said, collided with satellite. McDowell found that object 48078 is a small piece of space junk, a piece of debris from the Zenit 2 rocket that launched Russia's Tanzlina 2 spy satellite back in September 1996. There you go. Let's get this show cracking. Happy birthday to today. Can't believe this. Robert Redford is 85. Christian Slater is 52. And you start thinking, what is Christian Slater's best movie? I'm still going with Gleaming the Cube. Ed Norton today is 52. Slaughter drummer Blas Elias today is 54. Blas, in addition to Slaughter, he's the drummer in the Trans-Siberian Orchestra right now. He also is in Raiding the Rock Vault in Las Vegas, and he's still in Slaughter. You remember that movie Rockstar with, New Kids on the Block? What's his name? as the singer. That was Blas that played the drums in that movie for his band, Steel Dragon. All of this is coming from memory, and I can't remember who this... New Kids on the Block. Oh, whatever. All right. Our dead guy's birthday today is... Oh, Everlast today is 52. Our dead guy's birthday today is Patrick Swayze, 1952 to 2009, died at the age of 57. Patrick, of course, received 3 nominations for Golden Globe Awards for Best Lead Actor for his roles in Dirty Dancing, 1987, Ghost, 1980, and To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, in 1995. But his 2 best films were Red Dawn and Donnie Darko. That's a fact. Patrick died with his family at his side on September 14th, 2009, at the age of 57. His death occurred just 20 months after his cancer diagnosis. On this day in history, 1991, Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev is placed under house arrest during a coup by high-ranking members of his own government, his own military, and his own police force. Fader fact. All right, here we go. Here we go. A person, normally I give you the full name. In this case, I couldn't. So a person only known as Alberto. Now, I watched the TV clips on this. I watched them on all the major news outlets. He only wanted to go with Alberto. But Alberto was charged $62,000 by his wireless carrier for downloading the movie Wall-E. While the carrier reduced the bill down to $17,000, arguing that the 5-figure charge was what it cost them to deliver the movie. And that is your Fader fact, man. Remember those roaming charges back in the day? Remember that? Tonight, very special guest, Avi Loeb. He's here to tell us about his Galileo Project. And, of course, tomorrow night, I'll be taking the night off. Now, let me hit a good movie. Cassandra, I'm going to give you credit on that. I forgot about Heather's. I'm still going with Gleaming the Cube, though. Such a great movie. Oh, yeah, True Romance. Ah, yes. True Romance. Still going with Gleaming the Cube, though. True Romance is great. Still going with Gleaming the Cube. All right, Fader fact. Rivermoon Coffee, rivermoonwellness.com. Just go get the coffee. Everybody has been telling you it's the best coffee in the world. It's not me. I'm a great hype man. I get it. It's the best coffee in the world. Go over to jimmychurchradio.com. We have an Amazon store. We have the websites. We have 2. We have Fade to Black blend. We have the Game Changer blend. We have a promo code, F2B blend. Go and get the coffee. It's the best. That's it. You can thank me later. All right. Now, let me hit this. Man, that's a great tattoo. Who would put a tattoo of me on their body? Oh, that's genocide. That's a great tattoo, though. I got to get that hairstyle back. That Elvis coif. All right. What if there was a serious effort by the scientific community to look at our skies 24/7, to take a look at everything, and I do mean everything, to check out and identify every object that is flying, floating, right? Fast, slow, up, down, left, right, hither and thither, everything. Track and image all that there is in absolute high-res fidelity. And report back on what they find to us, the public, without any government interference or oversight. Right? What if? Right? Think about that. Well, that is exactly what Avi Loeb is going to do. Now, this is not a proposal. This is not an idea. It's a project that is now officially underway. Now, we can talk about Navy videos all day long, but that's the Navy. And to be quite honest, the video themselves is total crap. They don't show us anything. Fuzzy, grainy, out of focus, third generation. And remember, those videos that you're seeing from the Navy, that's somebody that went up to a monitor and shot a cell phone video of it. That's not first generation. It's not even, that's not honest. No. So anyway, are they definitive of something? No, they're not. Are they cool? Yeah, they are. But the objects in the videos could be whatever you want. Whatever you want. Whatever you want to say they are. You can do it. They will represent your imagination. It's really that simple. It's now time to take things to the next level. We need the real stuff. You see, honest to goodness, megapixel in focus panchromatic beauty. What Avi Loeb is about to give us is something that has been needed for a very long time. With a huge team of about 70 researchers and scientists all around the world who will be diving into the UFO UAP question totally head on, with analysis compiled from the brightest minds that we have. And let's face it, there's a lot going on in the skies every single day. So, our own government and military are saying this. We as a community know this. And the one missing piece has been the application of our scientific community, pulling together the equipment and the knowledge to finally get some real answers. Now, we have seen amazing images over the years. Was captured by automated telescopes in megapixel full-color images and video with data to go along with it. Altitude, speed, trajectory, time-stamped temperatures, and totally researched in a peer laboratory setting with published reports. Now, I want you to take a minute to think about that, because that is exactly what is about to happen to our community and our world. Now, we've all seen the movie Contact. And when that moment of finding out if we were alone in the universe was finally answered in, they tried to take control of the event. Well, that is exactly the situation that Avi and his team has to be very aware of. And I think his response to this will surprise you. Now, just when things couldn't get any better or any crazier for our UFO community, you know, the media, the Department of Defense, Tic Tacs, our very own Senate Intelligence Committee, right? All of this going down at the same time. We now have Harvard University jumping into the deep end of the pool. The Galileo Project represents the next step in our quest for answers. And trust me, Avi and his team are going to have a great time poring over the data that is about to come flooding into their telescopes. I hope that they're ready. I hope that they're ready for the exciting times ahead. Now, tonight's conversation was recorded right before showtime. It is fresh. It is now. So yeah, I already know how cool it is. I do. So kick back and enjoy what you are about to hear. I'm going to be hanging out in the chat rooms and social media throughout the show, right? And I can't wait to see your reactions to this evening. we'll discuss the Galileo Project. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA Race Hobbs, the planet. I'll be right back with Avi Loeb. Stay right there.
This is Nicole Church, daughter of you-know-who, and you're listening to Fade to Black on .com and the Game Changer Network.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Introducing the Game Changer blend from River Moon Coffee that delivers a customized blend made specifically for the Fadernauts. If the game is rigged, change the game. It's a bolder cup with some bite. Game Changer is the coffee of choice for those that prefer an organic dark roast that is slightly lighter and milder, but it's still dark. With wild notes of pecans and chocolate with a rich, balanced, full-bodied cup that is roasted to perfection for a great coffee to start your day, as an after-dinner coffee or anywhere in between. Artisan, small batch roasted to perfection. USDA certified organic, all River Moon coffee is freshly roasted and packaged in the USA. Just go to rivermooncoffee.com or click on the banners over on our site and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today. rivermooncoffee.com.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRAradio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can get our podcast for just $2 per month. All you have to do is click on the podcast banner over at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, folks. It's troubling times, and fear is pushing emotions, which in turn pushes health the wrong direction. Do you ever get an ache because life is uneasy? Try Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea works on your digestive tract, helping to move food through quicker and comfortably so your health is spot on. Life Change Tea may not help with world issues, but it will help with your digestive issues. A glass a day helps keep the intruders away. So, change your life today. Log on to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. If your health game is off, get on by ordering Life Change Tea. Getthetea.com. And while you're on our site, look around at the great non-GMO organic supplements. And if you're a sales shopper, go to our specials page and see what's for you. I've been drinking the tea for 12 years and I'm sure glad for its health benefits. Again, that's getthetea.com. Getthetea.com. The tea that makes you go.
Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the planet.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Avi Loeb is here. He's here to announce and discuss the Galileo Project. We'll get to all of that in just a few minutes, but what is important to know is this. Avi is a theoretical physicist who works on astrophysics and cosmology. Professor Loeb is the Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science at Harvard University. He has been the longest-serving chair of Harvard's Department of Astronomy from 2011 all the way through 2020. Founding director of Harvard's Black Hole Initiative since 2016, and director for the Institute for Theory and Computation all the way back to 2007 within the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. He's also the author of one of my favorite books and best-selling Extraterrestrial, the first sign of intelligent life beyond Earth. I would like to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only right now, a rock star, Professor Avi Loeb. Avi, good evening, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
And you know, we've chatted quite a bit over the last couple of years, and all of the shows have been great. And what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the Galileo Project, is taking things a huge step further. We're going to do a pretty deep dive into this. But let's go back to 2 years ago when you and I first talked about Oumuamua. Did you see this kind of development happening this fast?
No, not at all. Back then, I didn't have an agenda. There was just this object that appeared quite weird and strange and didn't look like a comet or an asteroid. So I pretty much followed my nose and suggested maybe it's artificial in origin. And then I noticed the response from the community, the response from the public, and decided to write my book. 6 months ago, it was published and became bestseller in many countries, 25 languages. And altogether, there was a great interest in the subject, which is pushed out of the mainstream of science. That's completely inappropriate. And I said, when my book came out, I said that this is an opportunity for us to attract more funds to science, to attract more talent, young talent to science, because it's an exciting frontier that should be in the mainstream. And I'm glad to say that these proposals that I made were confirmed over the past month, because I had two multi-billionaires come to my porch at my home, and they asked me questions about my book, and ended up contributing funds to my research. And altogether, within 2 weeks, I got about $2 million, and decided to establish a research project to assemble a team of exceptional scientists, that mostly astronomers, that will be engaged in both trying to understand the nature of objects like the one discovered in 2017, Oumuamua, that come from outside, that find every now and then a plastic bottle among all the rocks that we find on a beach, on the beach of the solar system, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And then, in addition, of course, there was the report that came from the intelligence agencies delivered to Congress on the 25th of June, which basically triggered my latest round of interest, because it reported about objects that are not identified, whose nature is not known. And it's an unusual situation where the government, which is the most conservative organization, admits, or at least some parts of the government admit, that they're not doing their job. The intelligence agencies are supposed to figure out the nature of objects in the sky and above the US, and they haven't found that explanation of what some objects are, 143 of them. And if they suspected that it may be another nation, the Chinese or the Russians, they wouldn't come out so publicly about it. They would try to figure it out. So to me, it implies that, this is unusual, and it's intriguing enough for the subject to move to the realm of science rather than stay in as a talking point for politicians or military personnel. So at that point, we announced last month, a month after the report was delivered to Congress, we announced the Galileo Project, because I now have funding. I don't need approval from anyone. And we are very excited about it. I have a team of exceptional scientists, and we're trying to right now define the instruments we want to purchase off the shelf. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have about this project.
Well, now, speaking of funding, I just want the audience to know this is not only a recognized project and a very visible project, but it's also fast-moving. And right before our conversation started today, which was a little delayed because you had an announcement for me, which is going to be announced right now for the first time on this program, that Harvard has set up a public funding project for Galileo. And now, you didn't know, how much can you tell us right now? I know we've got the links and things that are going out into social media for you, but what can you tell us about that? That's pretty cool news.
Yeah, so we had to establish a channel by which the public, anyone interested in funding the Galileo project, will be able to contribute, irrespective of what the amount is. Originally, there was only a channel for very large donations, but now there is a link where you can go and select the appropriate choice related to my research fund, which will fund the Galileo project even for small donations. And we have a website at Harvard for the Galileo project, and in that website there is an item saying fund us, and that's where you can find the link.
And we've got that up right now in social media, so all of us in this community, I encourage you to just follow the link that we have up there and do what you can. This is a very, very important, not only project, but the timing of it. The timing with everything else that is going on, Avi. We have, of course, the Department of Defense. We have the Senate Intelligence Committee. We have all of the programming, the mass media. This subject of life in the universe has never been in the public eye like this before. And now we have the Galileo project. It's pretty exciting.
It is very exciting. And the importance of trying to examine it scientifically is that, we will have full control over the instruments, and our data will be open to the public. It will not be classified or hidden. And so everyone can see how the process of science is done. We will collect new data with state-of-the-art instruments and make it available. And, the image of a UAP, of an unidentified aerial phenomena, or of an object like Oumuamua, because a picture is worth 1,000 words, they say. But in my case, a picture is worth 66,000 words, the number of words in my book. I wouldn't need to write a book if I had an image.
Right. Right. Now let's get down to some details here. I wanted to say this. It feels like we are at an Arthur C. Clarke, Stanley Kubrick moment. There's something that is constructed outside of our planet is hopefully going to be discovered. We are almost in a science fiction movie, except this is for real.
Yeah. I mean, if we find something, if indeed, what, for example, in the context of Oumuamua, astronomers argue, well, it looks like a very strange rock, something we've never seen before, maybe a nitrogen iceberg, maybe a hydrogen iceberg. If we take a close-up photograph and see that it's not a rock, not an unusual rock, it's actually artificial, it's a piece of technology, it has buttons on it, then the experience will be similar to, a caveman finding a cell phone, and then the caveman initially assumes, oh, it's just a shiny rock, a rock never seen before. But then when the caveman starts pressing buttons, he or she recognizes that one button can record his or her voice, the second can record a photograph, and then of course it means that it's not a rock, it's something else. And in pretty much the same way, we can have the same learning experience where astronomers immediately said, oh, it's just an unusual rock, we've never seen any rock like it before, but it's still a rock, it's natural. Because that's your natural tendency to say that whatever you see is something you have seen before, that it's nothing new. But my point is, if it looks sufficiently weird, we should get more data. And that's what the Galileo Project is all about.
Now, let's talk about the team that you've assembled. And the reason why I want to actually start there, do you feel that in your community, teachers and professors, astronomers, professionals, that somebody had to be first, right? And you are, and then all of a sudden everybody is willing to get on board, but somebody had to reach out first, and you were that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I've had that experience before, that I worked on a subject before others joined in, and it taught me an important lesson. Initially, I didn't have the self-confidence, so when people would dismiss an idea that I had, I would hesitate and not pursue it, and then I realized that others took the idea seriously, and they gained all the benefits from adopting it, the idea that I proposed. And after a few situations like that, I said, the hell with it. I don't give a damn about what people said the time that I'm proposing a new idea. I will just advocate for something that sounds right to me. And, eventually the audience will join me. I mean, and that's what I said to the research team of the Galileo Project. I said, keep your eyes on the ball, not on the audience. And of course, there are lots of people looking at the audience all the time, all kinds of commentators, people that are publicly known, and they publicize science. There are lots of these people that are highly popular because they publicize science. But if you look at what they never wrote a scientific paper in the last decade, and they look at the audience all the time. They want to maximize the number of likes they get on Twitter. I don't care less about that. I just want to figure out, if there is equipment out there in space that may indicate that we are not the smartest kid on the block. That's what I care.
Now, how did you assemble the team? Did you reach out, or did they approach you?
Oh, no. Initially, once I had the funds, I started reaching out to, the experts, people that are highly qualified, that I trust. And it was really very rewarding to get yes from them, from some of them, that it wasn't clear to me that they would agree, because there are some risks involved. We might not find anything. And moreover, there is a stigma attached to this subject, and ridicule, and the giggle factor, all kinds of things that were, made this subject a taboo. And gladly, the young people that I approached, that are really excellent in terms of their professional abilities, agreed to join. And we have a team of 20 scientists, supplemented by about 20 advisors, and then about 30 or so affiliates, altogether about 70. And I feel very strongly that we can fulfill the mission. The only thing missing is, right now we have about $2 million, and that would allow us to perhaps build 10 telescope systems, but we really need 100 based on the estimates that we've made in order to see enough of the sky. So we need the funding at a level that is 10 times bigger than we currently have. I mean, we can demonstrate that we can get good data, but it would be really good if we had the tens of millions instead of just a couple of millions, in order to fulfill the promise of this project. And my hope is with this crowdfunding and other wealthy individuals that might come forward, that we will get there.
Now, let's talk about some of the technical aspects of this. Will the telescopes mainly be terrestrial? Will you have the ability to maybe tap into the James Webb and test systems?
Yeah, so what we are dealing with for the UAP, for the unidentified aerial phenomena, we're talking about telescope systems that will be on the ground in many locations. So if we have tens of them or hundreds of them, we will spread them around the globe and try to monitor the sky. But basically, you're taking a video of the sky in many locations. You're trying to look for something unusual. And, we are not interested in birds. When we see a bird, we will track it and realize it's a bird and then dismiss it. In much the same way, I don't care about an object that has made in China on it or made in Russia. I don't really care about those. They're as boring scientifically as birds are for this purpose.
Sure.
Of course, there are residents of Washington, D.C. that would be very interested in such data. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't care about human-made objects. And what we really care about are unusual things. And these could be either unusual phenomena in the atmosphere of Earth, or some objects from another technological civilization. So that's what we try to see if we identify any of those. And then in addition to the UAP, we will, of course, develop software that will identify objects like Oumuamua in the future. And that will include information from telescopes in space. So you mentioned the James Webb Space Telescope, but we hope to use others that will be in space in the future. And then also telescopes from the ground, that, like, for example, the Pan-STARRS telescope system that discovered Oumuamua, and there will be the Vera Rubin Observatory that will monitor the sky with much greater sensitivity. And then the idea is, if we find an object on its approach to us, like Oumuamua, in principle, develop a space mission that will intercept its trajectory with a camera that will take a close-up photograph. Just like the OSIRIS-REx mission did for the asteroid Bennu. It actually landed on it and will bring a sample back to Earth in 2023. So just imagine seeing an object that looks artificial and then landing on it and pressing the buttons. That would be remarkable.
Now,
and indeed, it will make science fiction appear as science. So
yeah, absolutely. Now, is there going to be a line in the sand, if you will, between yourself and your project and the government? If you make some astounding discovery, will you have the freedom and the ability to take it straight to the media and discuss it and not have it clamped down and released by the government?
No, I mean, the government doesn't own the sky. Astronomers look at the sky all the time. Of course, there are locations near military facilities and nuclear sites that are sensitive, but most of the sky is not classified. The government doesn't own the sky. You have astronomers looking at the sky all the time. So instead of astronomers looking at very distant objects, we will look at nearby objects. That's the only difference. I was asked by the administration at Harvard whether this is part of my research as an astronomer, because if it's not, I had to justify what I'm doing, because then it's outside of my research as an astronomer.
Sure.
And I said, yes, it's exactly the same as I usually do. I'm just trying to interpret data collected by telescopes. And the only difference is that usually telescopes look at very distant objects, and here our telescopes will look at nearby objects. But when you define astronomy, there is no reference to how close an object can be. And if we find an object that came from an extraterrestrial technological civilization, then obviously it made its way here from very far away. It's definitely part of astronomy. And I think this subject should be regarded as the mainstream, because it's a question that excites the public, a question that the public will be happy to fund, both privately and through grants that are given to astronomy. And also it's a very exciting question that is very important. If we find such equipment, it will change, it will impact our daily lives. It will change our perception about our place in the universe, our relations with each other, our religious beliefs, and so forth. So how can we shy away from this question? That's what always looked to me very strange, that there is ridicule and this subject is pushed aside, especially by scientists.
Now, so we always look back to, the movie Contact, right? And at that moment of that discovery, everybody's excited, and then some suits come in from Washington, D.C. and say, okay, we're wrestling control of this project now. We need to control this data. There is other implications involved.
I don't think there is any issue. Look, if what we find has nothing to do with a nation on Earth, okay, there is no way that the government could limit that knowledge, because it's not a national security issue that has to do with the U.S. versus other nations. It's an issue that the entire human race, the entire human species has to worry about. So it's without boundaries. And of course, we need to know where we are. It's if you were to block the information, it's just like saying you're not allowed to look through the window of your home to check if you have neighbors. The point is, of course, you might argue we don't have neighbors if you never look, but that's not a good approach because you want to know whether you have neighbors. So the government cannot tell you not to check whether you have neighbors. That we are talking about things outside of Earth, very far away. And we need to know as people, throughout the entire world, we need to know where we are, in the galaxy, in the Milky Way galaxy. It makes little sense for the U.S. government to limit that knowledge.
I'm so glad you're on our team. I mean, it can't be said any better than that. And before we get to the break, we're just a couple of minutes away, do you feel that the world now not only is ready, but can handle this kind of news? As you know, in the past, it was always framed that we couldn't handle it, right? That things would just go awry and go crazy on Earth. Are we ready as a planet?
No, I think the main problem is people are not willing to engage in this discussion. They're basically arguing they know the answer in advance, that they know that, business as usual, everything that appears in the sky must be rocks of the types that we have seen. And I'm talking here about the scientific community because, if the scientific community was open-minded, it would have invested funds in this search. And so that's the stumbling block right now. The public is excited about it. The scientific community was blocking it. And I'm trying to change this landscape and make it more legitimate and appropriate for this subject to be in the mainstream of science, because I think it will be very exciting for all of us, not just for scientists, but also for the public. More people will get engaged. And suppose we find a positive answer that there is a smarter kid on the block. We can learn from that kid. We can incorporate the technologies that we discover. It's really a very exciting search, much more so than searching for the nature of dark matter, which we've been engaged in for 4 decades, invested hundreds of millions of dollars, and didn't find anything. We're still searching in the dark. So I'm saying, if we're searching in the dark for the dark matter, why not search also for things like us? I mean, that sounds to me like common sense, and we better get into action on that.
Take me to your leader, right? It's where's Avi? What are you going to do?
If they ask me for my leader, I would direct them to my wife. But actually, my wife said that if they land in our backyard and ask me to get into the spaceship, she asks me to do 2 things. One, to make sure that I leave the car keys with her.
Yep.
Second, that I ask them not to ruin the loan when they lift off.
Consider for sure.
But
let's take our break. We got to get a break in. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Professor Avi Loeb. We are discussing the Galileo Project. All of that and much more when we come back after this short break. This is Fade to Black.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to forbiddenknowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30daysfree on forbiddenknowledge.tv today.
Because you never got that pony you always wanted. Damn it. Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network. KGRADB.com.
Listen, I know, and you know, that you've always wanted your first crystal skull. Or maybe you're a collector just like me, but you just don't know where to go to find the real thing. Then I met Carolyn Ford over at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. Carolyn is the guardian of Einstein, one of the most respected ancient crystal skulls in the world. All of her unique skulls have been imprinted sitting with Einstein in his sacred lodge and are carved from the finest gemstone and materials. Imprinting is the process of receiving the ancient wisdom from the master skull or master computer. Einstein, the ancient crystal skull. To see Carolyn's current collection of crystal skulls, just visit her store at EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com or click on the banner over on our site. Don't forget to use the promo code Jimmy at checkout to receive 10% off of your order today. That's promo code Jimmy. Finding your first or next crystal skull is easy. Just visit EinsteinTheCrystalSkull.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of fade to black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier. And this is Ari Gold. We're the Honey Brothers. We're also Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and you can become an official Fadernaut by just going to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com.
Hello, this is Serena Wright Taylor from Conscious Life Expo, and you're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church, who holds the Lucky Pony record for the best astrological chart since 1963. True story.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Professor Avi Loeb joins us. We're discussing the Galileo Project. I want to let everybody know what is going on. I'm taking tomorrow off. It is very rare, but I need my personal time. Okay, so no emails, no text. Where's the show? I don't want to hear it. I'm taking tomorrow night off. But tonight, it's Professor Avi Loeb. And we're discussing the Galileo Project. And Avi, I'm probably going to do this a few times tonight, but I want to back up and discuss a nugget that is in your book, Extraterrestrial, which I've read probably 20 times now, and without exaggeration. And every time I do, I catch a little, you've got some nuggets in there. And you can read past them like I have done. And one of them is this. You say, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you say that the data showed you that Oumuamua as a pancake. Now, that line, I jumped out of my seat. I was like, wait, what is Avi saying here? Is he using the word pancake? So let's talk about that for a second. That is different than the artist's interpretations and the way that it's been presented in the media. When you say pancake, what are you describing?
Well, it's a flat object, and this is not a matter of belief. It was basically the result of analyzing the data on Oumuamua. The reflection of sunlight from this object, and you have to understand the sun acts as a lamppost that illuminates the darkness around us. So when an object passes near the sun, it reflects light from the sun, and that's how we find it. And then Oumuamua was tumbling, and the amount of light that it reflected changed by a factor of 10 every 8 hours as it was tumbling. And if you try to fit the variation of light, you could infer something about the shape of the object. And the best fit at the 90% confidence was that of a flat object, a pancake-like object. Already the discovery paper argued for a flat object based on the way that the object tumbled. And that was later reinforced by the variation of light that was reflected from it. So altogether, it seems like the data suggested that it's flat. And in addition to that, of course, there was this excess push away from the sun. And the only way I could make sense of that was that it's reflecting sunlight and therefore getting pushed from that. And for that, the object had to be very thin. And that's why I suggested that it may be artificial, because nature doesn't make very thin objects that are flat. And then in September 2020, just less than a year ago, there was another object discovered that was pushed away from the sun by reflecting sunlight and had no cometary tail. There was no evaporation of gas from it, exactly the qualities of Oumuamua. And this object was discovered by the same telescope in Hawaii, but then the astronomers that discovered it realized it actually came from Earth. It's a rocket booster from a 1966 launch that was sent into space, and they just found it, given the name 2020 SO. And we know that, and that's why it was pushed by reflecting sunlight. And so that reinforces this idea that we can tell the difference between a rock and an artificial object, because an artificial object can be very thin. And the only question is, who produced Oumuamua?
Now, I want to stay on Oumuamua as an example, because we're going to flip right back over to the Galileo Project. One of the things that bums me out, and yourself too, about Oumuamua was our lack of data. We were caught by surprise, and by the time we knew it was there and it was gone, right? We didn't have the ability to collect imagery and a whole lot of data, and it's gone, and it's probably not coming back. That is an issue. If you look at that experience and apply that to Galileo, how much of this is going to be automated with the Galileo Project to track objects that may be traveling at extraordinary speeds inside of our atmosphere?
Yeah, so that exactly is the purpose. And you may ask, how come astronomers look at the sky all the time? How come they don't see UAP or unusual objects? The answer is simple. If a bird flies above a telescope, a regular telescope, the astronomers ignore it. What we will do is notice the bird and track it. So that's a different observing strategy. That's why this objective was never pursued by astronomers. We have to define a new set of instruments that would allow the telescope to identify targets of interest and then follow them on the sky. And of course, the telescope would find birds, would find drones, would find weather balloons, would find the airplanes, and we will have to reject those as not so interesting. But the hope is that it will also identify things that move in an unusual way, and perhaps not by technologies that we ourselves produce. Now, if we don't find any of these, or if we find that we can explain everything that we see in terms of mundane explanations, so be it, but that's the way of scientific inquiry goes. Basically, you don't have a prejudice, you just collect the data, and just like kids learn about the world, even though the adults tell them the answer, they want to figure it out themselves, and that's what we are trying to do in the Galileo Project, figure it out ourselves.
Now, when we hear these reports, from extremely credible professional sources, like Commander Fravor, that are describing these objects possibly going from point A to point B in the blink of an eye. Are you going to have the ability to pick it up first if it just appears, which there have been reports of that, right? Just phasing in, however that happens, but then moving from one point to another nearly instantaneously. How are you going to approach that? It seems like something impossible to tackle.
No, it will not be, because we will have something called the fisheye lens that is able to look at the entire sky all the time. And basically, if something appears, we will notice it, and then there would be additional telescopes that monitor its motion very quickly, so they would be able to immediately move in the direction of the object and track it. And that's as long as the telescope is small enough that it's possible to do it very quickly. So we need it to be automated, as you say. There is no time for a human to respond and say, "Oh, this looks interesting, let's look at that."
Right.
It will be automated, and the data will be collected, and it will be guided by a computer system. That's an important part of the project. And so there will be telescopes, and then they will be connected to cameras that take the data and transfer it to a computer system that tells the telescope what to do in response to that. And most of the sky will not be interesting, but every now and then there would be something interesting. Now, in addition to telescopes that observe in the visible range of wavelengths, look for reflected sunlight during the day, we will also have infrared sensors that can see objects at night, and also radar systems. These are not very expensive. Nowadays, you find both of them on sailboats. People have infrared sensors and radar systems that can see to large distances, miles. And so we will employ those.
Now, this is so exciting. I didn't think about the fisheye aspect, looking at the entire sky all at once, finding movement of some kind, an anomaly, and then with automation, of course, picking up on that anomaly and tracking it from there. That makes a lot of sense. That's why you're the professor, and I'm just a radio show host. But there's another part to this. As you know, most images of UFOs, UAPs inside of the atmosphere are not the best, right? They're just not. Are we expecting, and certainly yourself, like something high def, 8K, a billion pixel image from a telescope?
No, so in telescopes, what you are limited by is the size of the telescope. So optics tells you, like, just to give you an example, if you have an object the size of a person at a distance of a mile, you can get a megapixel image of it with a 1 meter telescope, a telescope that has a diameter of 1 meter. And by the way, I found such telescopes online. There is a website that sells them, and it says add to the bag. And if you click on add to the bag, the cost is $500,000. So apparently there must be people willing to pay $500,000 by clicking on add to the bag. Otherwise, it won't exist. But it's quite expensive for us, and we are not planning to get telescopes as big as that. But just to give you an impression, such a telescope of 1 meter diameter can resolve the head of a pin on an object the size of a person at a distance of a mile. So you can easily read off the label made on exoplanet X. I mean, that would be easy. But if you take a telescope that is 10 times smaller, instead of seeing the head of a pin, you will see something, like half an inch or so in size or so. It's, of course, the resolution, the level of details that you can see depends on the size of your telescope. But a megapixel image is possible at a distance of a mile with a 1 meter telescope.
That's I've seen things at great distances, 14 miles, and trying to resolve and get resolution on that is always difficult. But in your case, I'm anticipating something crystal clear, something that can't be argued.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right. So right now we have only fuzzy images, and the government really didn't release much data. We're seeing only the tip of the iceberg. And the reason I think that there is an iceberg is because people that saw the classified component of the report to the Congress argue that it's a serious matter and that these are real objects based on all the data. So we haven't seen such conclusive data, but I believe that it exists, because otherwise those people that saw the classified component, the iceberg, so to speak, would not speak about it this way. These were former CIA directors, Brennan and Woolsey, and former President Barack Obama, and even Bill Nelson, the NASA administrator, said that scientists should look into that because he saw the classified component as a senator. And that, to me, illustrates the need of scientists getting the data themselves, because the reason the data is classified is because it was taken by government-owned sensors. It's not necessarily because the data itself is classified, it's the fact that it was collected by sensors that are classified, that the government doesn't want other nations to know about. But if we buy it off the shelf, all these telescope systems we buy from components that you can purchase anywhere, and put it together, and we can make the data open and available to anyone. And that's the way science is done. We are not after issues related to national security. We are after finding something new about nature. And, that's the way astronomy is done. That's the way science in general is done. It's sort of blue sky, here, no pun intended, but it's actually, we are looking for at the blue sky and trying to see if there's anything unusual out there.
Bill Nelson, I don't know if you were aware, but yesterday he was in a briefing with the Department of Defense and the UAP task force on UAPs. Now, this happened yesterday. I don't know the results of the briefing, but it made me think about our conversation today in that has the UAP task force reached out to you since the announcement of the Galileo report? Would they be interested in some of your data?
No, they didn't reach out to me, and our data will be open to everyone, including them. So they don't need to reach out to me, because we will not share it just with a selected number of people, and it will be available to everyone. So whenever we have the data, they will be able to review it.
Do you anticipate, Avi, and I mean this in the most positive sense, to keep this non-political, to keep this non-religious, to make this an Earth project, and it is for the citizens of this planet? It shouldn't be polarized, and we can't argue about this in a geopolitical sense.
Yes, I think it's a science project, and science in general is guided by the principles of sharing and cooperation on evidence-based knowledge. And that's exactly the theme of this project. We are trying to collect evidence and share it with everyone. And because the question that we're asking, whether we are the smartest kid on the block, whether there is someone out there, that kind of a question is of interest to everyone, irrespective of national boundaries, of ethnic origin, or anything. It's just like science more generally is trying to address questions about nature. And for that purpose, we will make the data available, and we will have a transparent analysis, and we have no agenda whatsoever. And the government did not really examine this UAP because of a scientific motivation. They were just monitoring the sky and saw something unusual. So we are saying, okay, well, let us have a closer look. Let us reproduce some of the unusual objects and see what they are. We're trying to help understand what these things are. And if they're human-made, we don't care about it. If they are birds or some natural, have a mundane explanation, we don't care about it. But I should say it's enough to have one object, let's say Oumuamua-like, just one object that came from an extraterrestrial origin, for this to be a major discovery, because it will change everything about the way we perceive ourselves in the universe.
It would change everything. That's the key. I mean, it would change everything. Before the break, I want to address something else really quick, which is this. There are some out there that would say Harvard never breaks away from the straight and narrow. And then there are others like me that would say Harvard thinks outside of the box. We've had many examples of Harvard applying an open mind to things. So I'm going to throw that at you. Could this project have been done at another university, or is Harvard giving you the freedoms that you are asking for?
Well, I believe that it could have been done elsewhere. It's just a question of whether people would dare to pursue it, whether they have the self-confidence to go against the stream, so to speak, whether the public or the media would pay as much attention to their arguments. That's a separate matter, but it's basically an argument that I'm trying to make as an individual. It doesn't represent Harvard University. And it's true that Harvard allowed me to blossom in a way that wouldn't be possible elsewhere. I got exceptional students and postdoctoral fellows that work with me, and I was able to develop my career at Harvard in a way that enabled me to make important work. And but putting that aside, the argument itself and the research direction could have been taken anywhere. If you think about Albert Einstein, he came up with his most important ideas before he got important positions at the prestigious universities. He came up with a special theory of relativity before he was in the patent office in Basel. And in principle, anyone can think about good ideas anywhere. The only issue is that people often are not attended to. They do not steer as much the pot if they are in a remote place and nobody listens to them, but they could nevertheless come up with the right ideas.
Now, there's another concern that I'm sure that you thought about. Is there a possibility? We've got about 5 minutes before the break. Is there? You may witness a secret government project, right? Some hypersonic, maybe stationary, maybe something anti-gravitic, some black project, and you guys image this, track this, shoot video footage, and expose something that maybe shouldn't be exposed. What are you going to do if that happens?
Well, as I said, I don't care much about human-made things. So for me, it would be very boring, and I wouldn't care less about it. But you have to understand, it really depends where we put the telescopes. So if we put the telescopes on a mountaintop in a remote location, it's very unlikely that at that location you will have some special facilities that belong to the government where they do these things. And if the activities that you're describing are restricted to military facilities or some special locations, we may not see them. As I said, if we can tell that the motion is consistent with whatever technological equipment is available right now to humans, then we will ignore it.
Well, okay. Let me actually narrow the question. Let's say hypothetically that you tracked the Tic Tac, and you photographed the Tic Tac. It doesn't look conventional. It looks like a Tic Tac, right? It's traveling. It's doing these crazy things. But later you find out that it was a Northrop Grumman project. That's what I'm referring to. Something that you.
So then we will not write about it, because then I lose my interest in such a thing. I'm happy. I mean, we will not publish necessarily a paper about it, because, all you learned is that humans are doing something, but that's not of great interest for us as astronomers. I really want to figure out, if it's an atmospheric phenomenon, it turns out to be something exotic nobody thought about, that would be worth a paper, because the atmosphere can do these things over and over again in many places, and that will tell us something. The other thing I wanted to mention, if we have the equipment placed in foreign countries, other places, that they may not have any U.S. technology operating over there.
Sure.
So we hopefully will have enough locations where we can isolate something that came from outside the Earth. Because it will appear in many different places where you don't expect U.S. equipment to be.
Now, I'm gonna make you a prediction right here. You're gonna have more work than you can handle. There is stuff out there, and as you know, the amount of planets and star systems, that number is so ginormous that most humans can't even contemplate how big those numbers are. There must be a nearly infinite amount of intelligence out there. How much of it is aware of Earth? I don't know. But if you take a small fraction of that, a small percentage, that would indicate we're being visited a lot, right?
I would phrase it differently. I would say, most of the stars formed before the sun, and by before I mean billions of years before the sun. So there are tens of billions of stars like the sun, and we know that roughly half of them have a planet the size of the Earth, roughly at the same separation. So it's very likely that there was a civilization like us, or more advanced than us, that formed a billion years ago. And if they sent artificial intelligence systems like we are developing now, that drive our cars, that will make medical decisions within a decade, this could outsmart us, and we can just educate them like we educate kids, train them to cope with the world using the guiding principles we give kids, and eventually we can send them into space. And if we equip them with 3D printing, they can reproduce themselves, replicate themselves when they go to planets far away. And within a billion years, you can pretty much populate the entire Milky Way galaxy, all the habitable planets, with probes of this type. And the question is, do we live in such a reality where something like that was done? It was sent originally a billion years ago, and right now it's everywhere. And the only way to answer this question is to look, to check, rather than assume that we are the first to come along, we are really special and unique, and there is no point in, and we really need extraordinary evidence before we even engage in this possibility.
Thank you for saying that. That's an extraordinary statement, but it is just based on reality. There isn't another way, logically, to look at any of this. Avi, stay right there. Our guest tonight, Professor Avi Loeb. We are discussing the Galileo Project. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this short break.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Do you you want to be an official Fadernaut? Of course you do. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black. Just go to our membership section at jimmychurchradio.com. Fadernauts. When you think about the future of our country and where we're headed, do you wonder about the food supply? I do. Disruptions in the food supply chain could be disastrous, and they usually occur with little warning. That's why the smartest thing you can do today is to stockpile emergency food, water, and other essentials. I personally recommend My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, serving millions of customers for more than a decade. In fact, they're the only source my family trusts for our preparedness plan. You should too. Right now, save 20% off a full 4-week supply of delicious meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. Saving 20% helps too, doesn't it? Especially now. So go to preparewithjimmy.com and get ready. That's preparewithjimmy.com. There's no time to lose. Do it now.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRAradio.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Professor Avi Loeb joins us. I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night, I'm taking the night off. It's the only time I'm going to say it tonight. No, I just said it. I'm taking tomorrow off, okay? All right. Tonight, Professor Avi Loeb, and we are talking about the Galileo Project. We have put up in all of our social media links to how you can help support the project and fund it any amount. The links are up, and it'll take you straight to the Galileo Project website, and you will follow and see the link there. And it says fund us, and then donations to the Galileo Project. All the links are up in social media. Now, Avi, oh, by the way, it's pretty cool that I can just address a professor at Harvard as Avi. Avi, let's go off planet for a second. One of the things that you have mentioned, and I'm starting to hear more and more chatter about the ability and the technology to do this, is to peer out and pierce the atmospheres of distant planets and look at their atmosphere. Also, maybe city lights, right? Some industry. And this was something that you started research on a while ago. Can we discuss that for a second? And will that be part of the Galileo Project?
Yeah, that will not be part, but indeed, over the past 5 years or so, I wrote scientific papers on these possibilities. So the first one is, imagine a planet where there is industry, just like we developed industries, and And you can get the industrial pollution of the atmosphere, just like we pollute the atmosphere with CFCs. These are the molecules that destroy the ozone layer. And we can potentially search for such molecules in the atmosphere of another planet. The astronomers are mainly thinking about looking for oxygen or methane that are indicative of primitive life, like microbes. But one thing to keep in mind is the Earth had microbes from the beginning almost. And for 2 billion years, even though there were microbes, there wasn't much oxygen in the atmosphere of Earth. We don't fully understand why, but the atmosphere did not have much oxygen. So if you don't, that's half of the lifetime of Earth. So if you don't find oxygen in the atmosphere of another planet, it doesn't tell you that there is no life there, because Earth itself spent half of its lifetime in that situation. If you do find oxygen, again, it doesn't tell you that there is life, because you can get oxygen from natural chemical processes. But if you find these CFCs, these complex molecules that nature doesn't produce on its own, then you know that not only there is life, but actually there are industries on that planet that pollute the atmosphere, and that would be very exciting to find. So my point is, the same instruments we are developing to search for oxygen or for methane can, in principle, be used to search for industrial pollution, and that would be quite interesting. And the second thing is city lights. I wrote a paper just a few months ago with an undergraduate at Stanford, where we said that the James Webb Space Telescope can look for city lights on the nearest habitable planet to the solar system, and that's the planet near Proxima Centauri, the nearest star. And that planet is very close to the star, so it has a permanent day side and a permanent night side. And if you imagine a civilization living on it, they might want to transfer electricity to the night side and illuminate the night side, because it's permanently dark. And with the James Webb Space Telescope, we can tell whether the dark hemisphere is really dark or whether it has some light on it, because as the planet moves around the star, you see different phases of it, just like phases of the moon. And if the dark side is not really dark, the phases would look different. So we made a prediction for how well we can constrain the night side and on Proxima Centauri B, this planet, and what kind of artificial illumination, what level of artificial illumination can we detect from city lights on the dark side.
What would an ETC see visually of Earth from great distances? Would they be able to see exactly how you're presenting it here? Would they see Los Angeles or New York or Taiwan?
Well, it depends how sensitive or how big their telescopes are, but the illumination of the night side of Earth is really small. It's a percent of the day side. It's very small. Because city lights are sparse. There aren't many locations where you have city lights, and altogether you have a small fraction of the Earth, even the continents, that are illuminated, not to speak about the oceans that are dark at night. So it will be very challenging, but with a big enough telescope, you could potentially detect it. Of course, on the Earth, you also can look for these molecules that I mentioned before for industrial pollution. So there are ways to tell that we have a technological activity here. And of course, the most obvious one is the radio signals that we're sending out. They went a distance of 126 light years so far, because 126 years ago, Marconi transmitted the first radio signal. So since then, we've been transmitting without thinking about it. And when you go in the wilderness, you have to be careful. You have to be quiet, because you never know who is listening and whether there are predators out there. But we weren't very, very careful about that.
I want to discuss that for just a second, because our window, and we can think about television and radio signals, and at one point, we didn't even care about wattage. We were just blasting out massive radio signals. without consideration of other things. But now that window of radio and television signals has closed down because we are using cable and optics, and our transmission for communications now isn't necessarily through radio and television signals. Would that be the same consideration when looking for signals from an ETC, in that they may have gone through the same evolution that we have, where they did radio signals for 100 years, but now everything is now closed down in digital?
Yeah, I think it's very possible that this is the reason we are not detecting a lot of radio signals. And I think it was the wrong approach for the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, because it's just like trying to have a phone conversation. You need the counterpart to be alive when you're having the conversation. And instead, a much better approach is like archaeology, where you're searching for relics that the counterpart left behind. And that includes equipment in space. That's what the Galileo Project is about. That's what I was advocating in my book, Extraterrestrial. Doing archaeology in space, looking for objects left behind by past civilizations that predated us.
Now let's shift gears again, and I want to go back to a couple of points. This all revolves around the Galileo Project, but it's some of the little nuggets in your book that I have picked up on. The first is Oumuamua. You have described it as a buoy. And when you describe it before it got here, does that mean it had a specific point in space where it was stationed, where it was parked, where it was anchored before movement started? Am I understanding that comparison?
Yeah, so there is the notion of the local standard of rest, which is sort of like the galactic parking lot. That's the frame of reference that you get to when you average over the motions of all the stars in the vicinity of the sun. And, stars move relative to each other in the vicinity of the sun. You average over them, and then you get to the galactic frame of reference. And Oumuamua was at rest in that frame, which is very surprising because all the stars move relative to that frame. Only 1 in 500 stars is so much at rest as Oumuamua was. So sort of like finding a car parked in a parking lot in a city where you have cars passing by at different speeds. And first thing you realize is that it couldn't have come from any of the nearby stars because they are moving relative to that frame and it would have inherited their motion. So it doesn't move relative to the local standard of rest. And the other thing to think about is maybe that serves a certain purpose because maybe there is a grid of objects that mark interstellar space. It's sort of like posts, road posts, that if you were to navigate through interstellar space, they provide you with information about where you are. And that could be a reason for it to be at rest in that frame. But what happened was basically the sun bumped into it. The sun is moving relative to that frame, and it bumped against it and just gave it a kick. Sort of like a racket that hits a ping pong ball and gives it a kick. And that's what happened with the sun. So the motion of the sun relative to the object is the motion of the sun relative to the local standard of rest.
And so its LSR, its local standard of rest, were you able to pinpoint it by backtracking into the data and finding out where it was anchored, so to speak?
Yeah. I mean, we know where it started because we know when the sun sort of collided with it. So it was pretty much at that location, close to that location, and the sun just ran into it and deflected it, gave it a kick through its gravitational force. That's what happened. And there must be a lot of other objects like it because, what's the chance that we'll be looking at the sky and finding this object within a few years of starting the survey? It's quite small. And it took about 10,000 years for this object to cross the solar system, the entire solar system. So it was clearly not designed to go after us, so to speak. But it could have been, it could have served another purpose. It could have been, for example, a receiver that collects data from probes and That's why it was tumbling in all directions. And maybe there are probes in the solar system, like this UAP, that provide it with information when it comes close to them. We just don't know. We didn't collect enough data on this object. We don't know for sure whether it's artificial. We don't know what its purpose is. But that's the reason for getting more data, for trying to figure out the nature of these unusual objects.
Now, with something that is in an LSR state, okay, let's just go with that. If it's not in motion, it must be difficult to detect. I mean, you wouldn't be able to see it first. It's too small and it's out in space, right?
Yeah, it's roughly the size of a football field, and you can see it when it crosses the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And that's when we saw it, we noticed it. Only at that distance, the illumination by the sun is bright enough for you to notice it. It's sort of like having a lamppost. The sun is a lamppost that illuminates the darkness around us. And only when a fly gets close to the lamppost, you see it. When the fly is far away, you don't see it. So when you look around the lamppost on the street, you see flies around it. Those flies are everywhere, not just around, the lamppost, but you can't see them far away. And the same was true about Oumuamua. And now it's 1 million times fainter than it was close to the sun. So we can't really see it anymore.
Now let's fold this over into the Galileo Project. There's a reason why I do things the way I do, Avi, which is this. Now that you know that Oumuamua is not only possible, but how tricky it is to track, photograph, capture imagery, and collect data. Now you have that knowledge going in with the Galileo Project. How would you track something like that with the Galileo Project, and how would you capture the imaging?
So, as I said, the Galileo Project has two objectives. One is very nearby objects that are in the Earth atmosphere. These are the UAP. And for them, we will use the setup of these telescopes that I was talking about. Maybe if we have enough funding, and I just got an email from someone that donated $500. If we get enough funding, then we can put a lot of these telescopes, maybe hundreds at best, around the globe and monitor enough of the sky to make discoveries and find new objects like that in the Earth atmosphere. At the same time, we hope to find objects like Oumuamua, in space within the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And if we have a space telescope like JWST or like others that will be launched in the coming decade, they can look at the object from different directions than the telescopes on Earth. So if we see the same object from different directions, we can track the three-dimensional motion of the object much better. We can also infer something about its shape because the reflection of sunlight is different in different directions. So we will learn much more if we were to have multiple telescopes looking at the same object from different directions. For example, if there was a telescope at a Lagrange point far away from Earth, that would help us a lot. And then, ultimately, we might want to design a space mission that will come close to an object of interest like Oumuamua and take a close-up photograph.
Now, and what about response time? Because one of the problems with Oumuamua was everybody was caught by surprise. And the other, can you imagine if we were able to have jumped on Oumuamua quicker and what we would have learned? Well, now you have that experience. Will your response time in space, not terrestrial, but in space, be amplified and extremely quick?
That's right. And now, we can think of Oumuamua as a wake-up call. It basically tells us there is something to look out for out there. And even if most of the time we find rocks, every now and then we might find a plastic bottle, and we better check. And altogether, I think collecting evidence is important because even if we end up finding something that was produced by nature, that is not artificial, not technological, and it turns out that Oumuamua was a hydrogen iceberg or a nitrogen iceberg, something we've never seen before, we still learn something new. that in addition to the rocks we find in the solar system, there are nurseries that make objects that are different from what we find in the solar system. And so be it. We learned something new. We didn't know that before. And the way to learn is by getting data, not by assuming that we know the answer in advance. And that was the mistake made by the philosophers during the days of Galileo, that they didn't want to look through his telescope because they knew that the sun moves around the Earth. And we don't want to repeat that mistake.
Okay, now let's talk about something a little different. There are things inside of our solar system that have been photographed and commented on, but nothing has been followed up. And specifically, I'll bring up the monolith on Phobos, where if you look at those photographs and the initial imaging, one would say clearly that looks artificial. Are you going to go and take a look at some of these anomalies inside of our solar system?
Not at first. I'm really after objects that are floating out there, either in the atmosphere or in space. But you are right that there is a whole new frontier that can be pursued, which is artifacts on planets. And that includes also artifacts on the moon, because, the moon has no geological activity. It doesn't turn around. The outer layers stay where they are. They stay that way for billions of years. And there is no atmosphere that burns up any object coming in. So altogether, the moon is a museum. It kept all the objects that collided with it. And I think we should regard it as an archaeological site where we could find some piece of equipment that crashed on the moon that did not come from us. We should just search for it. We haven't surveyed the surface of the moon. So that's an example where you can find artifacts, where you can find things that we didn't produce. And the same is true for other objects like the planet Mars and other places in the solar system. You're right. We should check. We should treat those as potential archaeological sites.
Now, I know you're not going to step out of bounds, but I have to ask you. Has anybody given you information, like a possible site on the moon? It's something strange here, Avi. When you get the chance, you might want to look here. Have you been given any tips?
No.
You're grinning.
No, I was not. Of course.
What I mean is, you have to stay in bounds. But
no. The point is, you see, there was never very convincing evidence about the claims that people made, and we should be cautious about it. But the thing about the Pentagon report to Congress and about Oumuamua is that it passed a certain threshold where it was intriguing enough for us to collect more data. So obviously, once we get a high-resolution image, once we have a megapixel image of a UAP or of Oumuamua-like object that shows that it's artificial, I think everyone would agree on the interpretation. It would not be at all debated because it would be clear if it's good enough data. So really, telling the difference between human-made objects, natural objects, and artificial objects from an extraterrestrial technological civilization, the distinction between these three possibilities can be made with good enough data. And that's the key. So it's not a philosophical question. It's a question of having a good enough image. That's a very simple point. And a kid can understand it.
Now, and why is it that, especially when we're talking about physics, astrophysics, and astronomy, that there is this philosophical line that is there? Are we ever going to get to the point where the two can join forces? I mean, philosophy at one point was physics a couple of thousand years ago. Right. Do you see that happening?
Well, I must say that I was a bit disappointed because a few weeks ago, I saw an article in Nature Astronomy magazine by a philosopher who argued that based on philosophical reasoning, he can demonstrate that Oumuamua must have been natural in origin and could not have been a technological relic. And I thought to myself, haven't we learned anything over the past 4 centuries since the days of Galileo that you should not rely on philosophical arguments, but look for the answers through telescopes?
Yeah, and not to say that, because I appreciate and love philosophy, and I don't know why I'm able to remain objective and appreciate both sides. But I mean, it's just like, can't we all just get along, right? Don't we actually have a common goal here?
Yeah, but some questions, are philosophical in nature. For example, you can ask, why do the laws of physics have the way, have the current and the, principles, or why did the universe start in a certain way? This goes beyond physics. It's sort of a metaphysical question, and there are questions where philosophy is really the only tool that you can use. But if you ask whether an object is technological relic or it's natural, or it's a piece of rock, I would say for that, to decide that, there is no point in discussing it philosophically. Let's just get good data on it, and then we'll figure it out. If we had our hands on it, we would know.
Whether it's a rock or not is not a philosophical issue.
Yeah, exactly. You could have, after you figure out what it is, if it looks like it's artificial, then you can start to ask philosophical questions about its significance. But what we are addressing right now, what stands before us, is to look for clues that we might not be the smartest kid on the block. That's all.
You are the smartest kid on the block. Our guest tonight is Professor Avi Loeb of Harvard. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. We are discussing his Galileo Project. Funding for it and the links for it are up in our social media pages, all of them. We're going to take a short break. More with Avi when we come back. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas.
Why is it we're not very good with our health regimen until it's too late? We don't put oil in the car until the engine blows up. When the body's out of balance, your health is not so good. Give your body some love. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. Try our Life Change Tea, which cleanses you from harmful intruders. A clean colon is one of the ways to bring the body in balance. We also carry organic supplements to help you get where you need to go. So do your body a favor. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You can even visit our sales page to save some dough. Does anybody call money dough anymore? Anyway, if you're looking for short, helpful health tips, go to YouTube and punch in Health Matters Now. That's Health Matters Now. So, log on to GetTheT.com, shop, get balanced, then learn some cool tips at Health Matters Now. You'll be glad you did. That's GetTheT.com.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I only drink Fade to Black blend coffee from Rivermoon. Just click on the Rivermoon Coffee banner at jimmychurchradio.com. Promo code F2B Blend.
This is the only way forward.
This is Fade to Black. Make contact. KGRARadio.com.
When you're in the house for longer periods of time, you can see them flying or running across the floor. Ooh, yuck. They're unhealthy, gross, and disgusting. Bugs. I loathe bugs. We keep a clean home, but occasionally bugs show up. Well, I found something that is tougher than bugs. Orange Guard. On contact, it kills hidden bugs, including ants, roaches, and fleas. Plus, Orange Guard is a residual repellent. All of the ingredients of Orange Guard are on the FDA generally recognized as safe list. Orange Guard may be used around food, humans, and pets. It comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Orange Guard, available at orangeguard.com, Whole Foods, and Ace Hardware.
Gold loves chaos, uncertainty, and disarray. History shows us what gold does when people aren't sure about the government, the stock market, their jobs, or their retirement savings. Our national debt is skyrocketing. Gold and other precious metals are a defense measure against inflation and a stock market that might take years to recover. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? Call United Gold Group. We offer gold and other precious metals delivered securely within 72 hours. Are you worried about the stock market? We can also help you set up a real gold or silver IRA or a 401k. Safe and secure. United Gold Group makes gold ownership affordable. Call now and get up to $2,500 in free gold or silver with a qualified IRA. Call 800-753-8534. That's 800-753-8534 or visit UnitedGoldGroup.com.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why fade to black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Professor Avi Loeb. We are discussing the Galileo Project. And once again, we've got links up for funding for you to help support the project. The links are up in social media. Let's get straight back to it. I want to take this last segment, Avi, with you to discuss some points of the UAP Task Force report. Highly anticipated. And I think that there were large segments of not only the UFO community, but the public in general that were anticipating disclosure, some type of ET component to this, not necessarily, little green men, but acknowledgement of something that was not of this earth. Report came out on June 25th. You read the public portion of it. What went through your mind?
That the evidence that was released was not convincing, but perhaps there is an iceberg under the water that we don't see, that we see just the tip off. And the reason I say that is because people that I respect, serious people, argue that when they saw the classified component of the report, they were convinced that these are real objects and it's a serious matter. So to me, that is sufficient to trigger interest as a scientist in trying to collect similar data, high quality data. And, some of the data that was released was based on a jittery camera in the cockpit of a fighter jet. And, it's not the best way to collect data on a UAP. And that's why we want to have full control over the instruments we have. And the other thing is, the claim was in the report that was quite interesting, that some of the objects must be real because they were detected by multiple instruments. And that means infrared sensors and radar systems and optical cameras and so forth, and were seen by multiple people. And to me, that was very important because you can always argue that it might be a malfunction of an instrument, some smudge on the camera. Apparently, it's not the case because some of the objects were seen. And once again, it says it's a serious matter. I don't know for sure whether all the objects have mundane explanations. Maybe most of them do. Maybe it's a mixed bag. The point is that as scientists, it's our obligation to help the government in figuring out the nature of things that the government doesn't fully understand. And I see it as an obligation to do this. The government is really the most conservative organization we have, and scientists should be open-minded. But it seems to be the other way around. The government is talking about it and move on to ignore it. And I just find it unacceptable.
Were you hopeful for an ET component in the report?
Well, not based on the data that was released. It was not conclusive enough. But
no, I mean before the report was released, were you hopeful for a little ET component?
Well, I would have been very intrigued. I would have been excited if there was definite proof that or a definite statement that. Because I'm always curious about the world, and frankly, I think it's arrogant of us to think that we are, the pinnacle of creation, so to speak. That there is nothing smarter than us. Because my daughters made this mistake when they were born and were at home, and they only met the family members. They thought that they are the smartest in the world. Then I took them to the kindergarten. They met other kids that have better skills, and that was a psychological shock for them on the first day at the kindergarten. So I learned from that, and I think the best approach to life is to stay modest, assume that you are nothing special. That should be your starting point, rather than argue that you need extraordinary evidence before you would believe that there is someone as smart as you are.
There also wasn't conclusive conclusions that said it wasn't ET, right? That was suspiciously missing from the report as well.
No, that's right, and that implies that more data or better data is required. So, but at the same time, the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson, argued that scientists should look into that, and I think that's the natural conclusion that one draws from that. That it's not really something you should ask politicians or military personnel to do, because they were not trained as scientists, and astronomers were trained to figure out what things are on the sky. So it should be the job of astronomers, just like you wouldn't ask a plumber to bake you a cake. That's not his or her job. What you want is the professionals to deal with such data, and that's what we are trying to do in the Galileo Project.
Now, there was two other points I want to get your comments on. Mm-hmm. In the report, it seemed like they were pretty confident, I'm talking about the DIA, in stating that, well, it's not ours, and it's not foreign technology like Russia and China. Now, that was as definitive as anything that was stated in the report. Well, what's left? Right? So they had enough data. You're a data guy, right? They had enough data to make those extraordinary statements.
Right, but they're not scientists, so they won't go in other directions. And that's where we astronomers have to examine similar data. Science is about reproducibility of results. So if what they are saying is correct, and there are objects out there that may not be human-made, anyone should be able to see them. And we will just use even better telescopes than they were using and see what we find. It's like a fishing expedition. You throw the hooks, and in our case, the hooks are these telescope systems. And without assuming what kind of fish you will find, whatever we find, we will report.
Now, what did you, and I want to hear you laugh, okay? I just want you to laugh for the audience. What did you think as you read through the report, and they had category 1, category 2, category 3, and then they had the, I'm doing air quotes, the other Ben, right?
Right. So the other is exactly what we are interested in. And for us, it will be the focus of our attention. So we will split that bin into a natural phenomena in the atmosphere, something unusual, or a piece of equipment from another technological civilization out there. We will try and figure it out.
Now, I like the way that you referenced, some type of self-replicating 3D printing existence. And if we last long enough, we'll be doing the same thing at one point as well. That's what we're going to do.
Right.
But when we're talking about UAPs, UFOs, things not of this Earth, let's be very clear here. Do you think that there is the possibility that some of these craft may have a biological being on board, some type of not driven by intelligence, but by an intelligent being. Is that a possibility at these distances?
No, I don't think so, because Darwinian evolution did not select us or any biological creature to survive in space in the long travel between stars. Even light takes 4 years to get to us from the nearest star, and it would take tens of thousands of years to get from the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. And that's light. Nothing can travel faster than light. And if you were to use rockets to travel 100 light years, would take 1,000,000 years. And these are very long times. We wouldn't survive for sure. And if we stay in space for more than a year, cosmic rays damage a significant fraction of the cells in our brain. So we are not designed to travel in space, but electronic equipment can survive. And that's why I say makes more sense to send AI systems, artificial intelligence, because they would survive the long journey and they could outsmart us. We let them drive cars now, and in the future, we would trust them more than humans when they go, more than astronauts when they go into space. They can survive the journey. They don't lose their patience over millions of years, and they can do the job. So I don't expect creatures to be on, vehicles that travel for millions of years. I don't expect that. I do expect technological equipment, AI systems. And at the end of the day, it will be our AI systems that we use to interpret their AI systems. Just like we rely on our kids to tell us content that we find in the internet that we cannot really, because we are more kids. And so in the same fashion, we will use our computer to interpret their computers.
Now, I want you to just go with me on this. Mm-hmm. When we go back to 1905, 1915, 1917, we go back to that era where we knew about 3 dimensions and we know about X, Y, and Z, and then we introduce the element of time. Okay, so now we've got a 4th thing to talk about. Einstein got space-time, and it's possible to bend this with a large object in space. And this is something that needs to be discussed because this is reality. Well, okay. If something is 1 billion years or 500 million years in front of us, would you anticipate the ability to take advantage of space-time and maybe even eliminate those gaps in space-time where traveling 10,000 light years is not traveling 10,000 light years? You're traveling that distance in a fraction of a second, where you're just.
Well, if it's possible to do it, then obviously that would be a great thing to use. But as far as we know, we cannot build wormholes or bridges in space and time the way that some people want us or imagine us to do. And so it's still very far away as far as our understanding goes. And for example, in the Galileo Project, we will not imagine laws of physics or deviations from what we know about physics until we are really forced into that. And so at first we will try to interpret whatever we see using our understanding of physics right now. In principle, if we see something really that cannot be explained otherwise, that would be even a more exciting discovery, because not only we will find evidence for other technologies, but also we will realize something about nature that applies everywhere, because the laws of physics are everywhere in the universe. They're supposed to be the same. So if we make such a discovery, it would be even bigger.
Well, okay. And I understand staying inside of the laws of physics. Getting outside of the laws of physics, that you're in trouble there. But if I want to go back to your analogy, to a cell phone being discovered by a caveman. Well, in the same respect, us driving to the store to get a gallon of milk 200, 300 years ago would seem like magic, but it's easy for us. We get the keys to the car, we drive down the block, we come back, whatever, or flying to Hawaii for a vacation. That is magic 300 years ago, but it's easy for us to do today, and we don't think twice about it. that technology for ET wouldn't be difficult. It's easy, right? There's some law in nature that they clearly understand that we aren't anywhere near right now.
Yeah, it's possible, and that would be a major discovery, I agree. But at first, we will try to use what we understand and see if we can interpret what's happening. And if we are forced with our back to the wall, kind of we can't really explain what we see, then we'll collect even more data and we learn something even more fundamental. That's always the case, and that's what would make such a discovery exciting. And science should be done without prejudice. So if something like that shows up, I would be thrilled. But I'm not expecting that at first because, until we see it, I wouldn't imagine it.
Yeah, I want to share with you a quote you've seen or of the show Ancient Aliens, and Giorgio Tsoukalos, the guy with the hair, right? Giorgio. Okay. So he's been on the show many times. He's a great friend and neighbor. But he said one thing to me, Avi, a few years ago on the show, and I've repeated this quote so often. And it's this. He goes, look, man, I don't know what's going on, but I can tell you this. If E.T., that flying saucer, lands on the White House lawn, the stairs come down, E.T. comes down, and we start talking to him, we will find out that we were all wrong. Right? That's it. No matter what theories, no matter what everything, that we were all wrong. And I think that's the best way to look at it. There's no way that we can have the right answers right now. We have to continue to search. Definitely. I mean, obviously searching and looking for evidence would be the way to go because that's how science should be guided. I'll be glad to appear on your show if we see something unusual, and we'll talk about it. If science fiction becomes science, that I wouldn't be more delighted. One last thing before we say good night. Now, again, I want to thank you in advance. You're a very, very busy guy, but we love having you on the show. Thank you for taking the time. If E.T., and it goes both directions, we can talk about SETI too as well, but if E.T. picks up on our radio transmissions, would it or wouldn't it correlate with their own sense of time? In other words, could it be descrambled? Would they even understand? And if we were intercepting their radio signals, it may just sound like noise to us and not anything logical. Right? And or
that's an excellent question. In communication is a great challenge. First, you have to figure out the meaning of of the signal that you're getting, and figuring out their intent is really complicated. And that's a subject for a full 2-hour discussion. It boils to linguistics. And the breaking of codes, because when you think about breaking the Enigma, for example, that Alan Turing was engaged in, it's sort of like seeing something enigmatic, something that you don't fully understand, and trying to figure it out, the meaning behind it. And that happened during the World War. And the same can be done, in the context of a signal we get from space. And then there is the question of what kind of language, not only symbols they are using, what kind of medium they are using to relay those sentences and how to figure them out. And that's a very interesting and challenging question. And I wish us to be in a place where this would become a real challenge for us once we figure out that we are not alone.
Yeah, I've often thought about, we're sending out, Carl Sagan and these equations and suggestions of numbers and that would be in our radio, and E.T. would just show up here and go, dude, we gave up on numbers 1 billion years ago. It's not what we do now. We're way beyond math.
Yeah, it's quite possible, but let's keep our eyes open and for now look for unusual things, and that will be sort of the thread that would lead us in the right direction.
Professor Loeb, again, thank you so much. I'm so excited about the Galileo Project. Its time has come. It's It should have been done a while ago, but now it is here. It's a big challenge. You've got a lot in front of you, but thank you for being a part of our team and Mother Earth. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks for hosting me, Jimmy.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Professor Avi Loeb. I am going to take a quick break. All of the links are up, and not only in social media, but if you go over to our website, there it is right there, projects.iq.harvard.edu/Galileo/home. Go and I'll be right back after this short break to get to some of your phone calls. Stay with us.
Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, JimmyChurch.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I take Life Change Tea supplements every single day. It's what I do. Click on their banner at jimmychurchradio.com. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Yes, Rivermoon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from Rivermoon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B Blend for 15% off of your order today.
This is Billy Carson with ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. Forbidden Knowledge TV has just reached its 1-year anniversary. That's right, 1 year. And as a show of appreciation, we are giving all new subscribers a free 30-day trial of ForbiddenKnowledge.tv. That's 30 days to binge watch thousands of movies, documentaries, conferences, workshops, lectures, yoga classes, meditation courses, and so much more. So log on to ForbiddenKnowledge.tv from your computer or mobile device, or get the Forbidden Knowledge TV app on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon, iTunes, or Google Play today, and use coupon code 30daysfree. That's coupon code 30 days free on ForbiddenKnowledge.tv today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Erica, Brittany, Gabby, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRARadio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. That conversation with Avi Loeb was recorded, well, now it was 4 hours ago. It was a 2-hour interview, And so 2-hour show minus 2 hours from this. So that was recorded literally 4 hours ago, all the way up to showtime. Had to do it for a couple of reasons. One, Avi's got to teach school. He's got stuff to do. And he's on the East Coast. So keeping him up till 1:30 in the morning, it's not that kind of party with Avi. And so anyway, that's why. And all of the I've only recorded over the years maybe a half a dozen shows. That's it out of 1,500 shows, just maybe a half a dozen. And 3 or 4 of those were with Avi. And I tried to get him to go live. And there was a couple of moments there where he considered it. And he's like, nah. So there you go. Now, I was, listening to the show tonight, and I listened to all of it. And I love the way he brings out the information. I really do. Listening to it a second time tonight, and I'm picking up on these things. It's just incredible. But there is, I talked about this the other night, the pacing. When you do a live show, and it was Micah Hanks. I was talking about this with Micah. A live show is different. A live show is different. It's edgier. It's thing, and there's adrenaline and stuff. And when you record, like this was recorded, even in the middle of the day, right? I'm wide awake. Everything's fine. I'm jacked up on coffee and all of that. But there is a different thing that happens when it's recorded. And I'm listening to it right now. And the pacing, the edginess of it is gone, and that's something that I recognize. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, it needs to be faster. It sounds to my ears, it's too NPR. It's just realized this is All Things Considered with Jimmy Church. And our guest today is Professor Avi Loeb from Harvard. How are you today, Avi? No matter what. And I thought, and I mentally was aware of this today, and I thought it was, I thought I was uppity. No, there is something else that happens with live radio that is missing from podcast. And I listen to podcasts, but I know that I'm listening to a podcast. I'm not, let me say this. There are some big podcasts out there that I listen to, and I can tell it's edited. I can tell. I can hear the edits. I can hear the changes and things, and the tonality of it, where it is just this relaxed atmosphere. Now, I'm okay with it because I know that's what it is. But as far as Fade to Black goes, this conversation with Avi was great. It was awesome. His part of it is cool. My side, it's a little, the foot is off the accelerator. It's yeah, and I can hear it. So, but anyway, it was a great conversation. I want to thank him for coming on. And now, this might have gotten lost in the conversation. Oh, by the way, I've opened up the phone line, 747-228-2051, 747-228-2051. There's no Fader Night this week. Fader Night is now. So if you've got something to say, it is now. 747-228-2051. Now, back to this. Avi and I had the interview scheduled, and we traded emails back and forth. I delayed it 5 minutes. There was some food that was delivered here to the studio, and I wanted to be able to eat the food and not let it. And I told him, I said, man, I just got food delivered. Can I eat really quick? He said, yeah, sure. And then so we delayed it like 5 minutes so I could scarf down this food, and then I start reaching out to him, and he doesn't pick up for 15 minutes. And he said, Jimmy, I didn't expect this. This just happened. Harvard has opened up crowdfunding for the Galileo Project. I was like, what? He said, yes. So let's talk about this tonight on the show. And he sends me the links, and I push, you guys saw it, I pushed it out there into social media. So all of that got delayed. I don't want that to get lost on everybody. That was a very big deal. And his excitement about this before the show was really cool. So the links are out there. If you want to get involved in one of the coolest things like ever, right now, go click on the links, go over to the Galileo Project over at Harvard. I've got the links up in social media. If you've missed that, then you can go ahead and do a Google search for Harvard and the Galileo Project. Go straight to the homepage there at Harvard, and it says right there, fund us. Fund me, fund us. Click on that and go. Because, as I stated earlier tonight in my opening rant, the one thing that has been missing in all of this, look, we've got the media, right? We've got that. We've got all the podcasts. We've got all of the TV shows. We've got the Senate Intelligence Committee. We've got these whacked out Navy videos. We have pilots coming forward and crew members. We've got all of this. We have the UAP task force. We have the UAP task force report. All of the movies, the TV shows, the documentary. All of this is happening right now, and it's all great. But there's one thing that has been missing all along, and that is for somebody of Avi Loeb's caliber right there to come in and go, look, I'm putting this team together, the brightest minds, scientists, undergraduates, grad students. I'm putting together a team of 70 scientists that are going to photograph, video, monitor everything that is flying. We're going to take out the stuff that doesn't matter. We're going to take out the bloods. We're going to take out that. We're going to take out the air. But we are going to identify UAPs, and we are going to study them. We are going to capture them with automated high-res telescopes. We are going to get it done and apply the scientific method to this phenomena. And we are going to say hello to ET. We're going to figure this out. That has been the missing link. So now Harvard said yes. This is active. This is now. This is not a proposal. This is not an idea. This is not some people sitting around a table and discussing things. This is happening. And if you've ever wanted to be a part of something great, this is it right now. Go and contribute whatever you can. $1, $1, $2, $3, 1,000, whatever you got, right? This is the time. I am so excited about this. His enthusiasm, and I was watching earlier. I was watching some of the comments about Avi smiling, and I'm here to tell you, and by the way, I am working on one of the reasons why I can't share screens and do that is the limitations of this studio. I don't run everything on a laptop or on one computer. That's why if I had that, I would just share screen. I would have it here and send it straight to YouTube or whatever and push it out. That's not the way the studio was set up. The studio is set up differently. Video runs on another computer over there. So whatever I have on this screen, no, that's not what happens. I have a camera that is plugged in to that computer. What is going on here? The guests are on another computer over here. My second guest or call-in lines or whatever are on another computer here. You can't merge the two. It doesn't work that way. You can't output. Now, there's a new software technology called NDI, All right. Now I've got NDI running, and that picks up a video stream on a network. Specifically, this I have 6 computers that are plugged in here to this Ethernet hub, and I have that network, so I can send the NDI out as a guest over here. But I lose myself, and so it's either or, and I can't sit here and switch and look over here at this computer and switch between the two like other people do. And if it's a recording, that's all easy enough to do. But this is live, so I would need literally a producer or a director sitting at that computer and bouncing between the two or merging them. I don't have the ability to do that live, so that's why that hasn't happened. Now back to what I was saying. The project is as important as anything that has ever happened before, and I believe I know what goes on in the skies. I know this. I've seen it. I know what goes on every single night, every single day of the year. Something crazy is going on. So absorb what Avi said. He is talking about points around the world from these stations. Some are observatories, schools, where you are going to have a couple of different telescopes. One is going to be looking at the entire sky. At that point, everything that is visible with a fisheye lens, the entire sky. And anything that moves, automated. Zoom in, check it out. And it's going to be quick, it's going to be fast. But if you are doing that, and you're looking at everything, quickly, you can do this fast. You can see everything that's in the sky. You are going to find UAPs. You're going to find UFOs. You're going to find anomalies. You're going to find phenomenon. And you're going to find a lot of it. Fisheye, and then zoom in. This is crazy, and it's never been done before. You would think, right? You would think that it's been done. It hasn't. It has not been done. It's one of the most exciting things, and that's why I told Avi, you are going to have more work than you can handle. You're going to have a lot of fun. That's 70 people. Yeah, it's not enough if you're going to open up this floodgate. So think about this. All right, just think about it. Think about it. It's incredible. It's incredible. This is the guy we need on our team. So what I was saying, I'm watching Avi smile. I'm watching him talk. I'm watching his enthusiasm and his happiness about this. Avi is smiling. He is in a good headspace right now. He is excited about this. And to have a professor of astronomy that heads the chairs at Harvard saying, hey, I'm going to find out what's going on with ET. I'm going to find the evidence. I'm going to do astral archaeology, and I am going to get to the bottom of this. And that is what is happening. It is not an idea. This is a project that is underway. So I put up the links. If you ever wanted to get involved with something as cool as this, I mean, like the for real deal stuff, the shiznickel, this is the project. This is the one. All right, I've got calls on hold. Let's see who is up, who is first. Let's go here. Did I do that right? I did do that right. All right. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Oh, hold on a second, man. I got to come back here. I've got to... Oh, no, I'm right. Okay, hi, you're live on Fade to Black.
You're
Who's
right.
calling?
Hi, Jimmy. You're right. I got you. It's Deb.
Hi, Deb.
Hi. Yes, I'm glad you have his links posted. I definitely want to contribute. You know, Avi is one of those people that just... you're right. He's just so likable. And he's always so energetic and full of enthusiasm, and he's engaging. And I just listened to him the other day on Christina's show, and then I couldn't wait to hear him tonight. I get a little bit distracted over here in the YouTube chat room, so I know I'm going to go back and re-listen to everything. But, his excitement, it just makes me, more, I don't want to say anxious, but just excited for the whole thing. And archaeoastronomy is a fascinating area as well. It's always interested me.
Yep. And that's my answer to that. Okay. Anything else? I mean, look, this is the deal. And again, I tried to drive a couple of points home for the audience so they can understand exactly what is being played out here. And one of the points that I made tonight, and I'm going to make it again, that I'm wondering how many out there in the scientific community and, in astronomy, in physics and astrophysics, how many of them are interested in this, but they don't want to be the dude. They don't want to be the dudette. They don't want to be first. They don't want to face ridicule. They don't want to be teased. They don't want to be the UFO guy. They don't want to have people talk, hey, that take me to your leader. That's him. That's him. That's her over there. You don't want to be that person. And I understand that fear. You just don't want to be that. Somebody had to be first. And you know what? It was Avi Loeb. So now Avi says, hey, right? He gets the support of Harvard. He writes it up. He releases the book Extraterrestrial. He gets Yuri Milner to come on board. He gets Stephen Hawking in the play. Now all of a sudden, everybody wants to be Avi's friend. Right now he's got 70. He's got 70 people. He's got 70 researchers, 70 scientists on board on this project already, and that's just now. He just had this press conference 2 weeks ago. So how many more are now like, okay, you know what? I think it's safe, right? I think it's safe.
That's right. Well, and that's right. The Avi train. And this is what happens, Jimmy. This is what happens when one person puts self-preservation aside and takes that leap. And we're witnessing it. And what a courageous, awesome person he is. And like I said, that's what attracts me to him. He is just a superstar as far as I'm concerned.
He gets it.
I love it. Yes, he does. And he's bringing us all along into it, He helps us understand it too, and it's so cool.
Well, when I brought up, I kept bringing up a few points that I've talked about on this show enough, but I had to swing it back around to Avi so everybody could understand the implications and how serious these subjects are when he makes a statement like Oumuamua. And if you remember, Oumuamua, with the artist representations, there are no images of it. It was this.
A cigar, right?
Right. It was this. Well, Avi says, wait, hold on a minute. Hold on. It's not a cigar, right?
No.
It's a pancake. And you're like,
yes.
What? And I'm telling you, so in the book, I think he says pancake once. That word is only in there once. So if you're just flipping pages and pounding, which is fine, you may have missed it. And he explains his reasons and what data took him in that direction, but it's only there just in a brief moment in the book. And it's one of the most profound statements he made in the entire book. That one, and I had to come back and go to Avi. Look, that's a nugget that most people, nobody talked about it. It wasn't in the press. They talked about extraterrestrial and Oumuamua may be artificial. And yes, he went out and spoke about it. But nobody brought up the pancake reference. What the heck are you talking about? A pancake only looks like one thing, a pancake. So either Oumuamua was this or it was a flying saucer, right? And his explanations for that, which are not only extraordinary, but simplistic. Look, man, it's flipping over. The light is changing by 90%, and you're not going to get that from this. You're going to only get that from this. And that it's a crazy for Avi to not only stand strong, but the statements are simple. The data. This is not my imagination. It's the data. This is what the data is saying. That is who is in our corner. That's the guy that is swinging for the fences right now.
Right. And the really courageous thing that he did recently, one of the last podcasts I heard him on was he challenged, he said, we can, I find it amazing that we can photograph the rings of Saturn, yet when this object floated through our universe, on autopilot or whatever, we just couldn't manage to get a decent picture of it. Even at how close it was, we just don't have the technology to get a decent picture of that. But yet we can go all the way out and get the rings of Saturn. And he brought that up, and it's just like, and he challenged them. And I just love that. That's what I love about him.
Yeah. Except, and he's right, but he's not. I think you missed something there in his answer. What? But it's this. The friggin' thing is going 250,000 miles an hour. It's not great, and when an object, an asteroid, and it's traveling at 17,000 miles an hour, that's ripping fast, right? It's traveling at 30,000. That's really fast. Oumuamua came in, popped up so quickly that everybody was, on the phones. Data's going off. Signals are being tripped, and this object gets picked up. By the time I'm talking about an hour, 350,000 miles an hour. In an hour, it's already gone past the distance from the Earth to the Moon. In an hour. An hour after that, and an hour after that, and the next thing you know, a day later, it's cruising by Mars, and a day after that, it's on its way out to Saturn and Jupiter and out of our solar system. So there wasn't time to react. There wasn't time to whip satellites around and tell us it was gone. It was gone. And it wasn't that big of an object.
It's on its way to party with other planets. It's going to go party on other planets. That thing's an alien craft.
It left.
And it's boarded with people.
It left like it was never here. It was really that fast. So there wasn't any time to react. And a lot of this data that comes in.
That's a good point. That's a good point, Jimmy. Yeah.
You get this data the next day. Right, and you're looking over it. You're not looking at pictures. That's not it. It's data. So you're looking at it. And you're looking at the lines of information and the logging, and you're like, okay, what happened? How fast? What's going on? And that's now 2 days have gone by, and it's now every 10 hours it's going 3.5 million miles. You have to think about it in those terms. So the opportunity,
and I wasn't. So
the opportunity to catch all of this was gone, and he talks about it in the book. The opportunity was completely missed. The opportunity on imaging. The opportunity on data collection, because all of the, Hubble, right? Hubble could have been, anything could have been pointed. By the time we knew, it was gone. So we had to go back and most of the information that was there is data collection. It's not from imaging. So, and that's it. That's it. We don't have a good image of Oumuamua. Okay. So before I get to the other calls.
So, real quick. Well, did you want to say something else before I two quick things?
I can keep talking for the next 3 hours. I haven't said anything
tonight.
Yeah, I know
you can, so I'm going to cut you off. I got to pivot you over. Okay.
I'm ready to go now.
Thanks for taking your. Are you still talking? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm watching I got to quit looking at the screen. There's a time delay. Damn. Okay. Thank you for taking your green glittery guitar off the wall and putting it in the camera. I love that guitar. It's the prettiest one up there. And playing it with Avi talking and us not hearing you, that doesn't count, Jimmy.
Nope, it doesn't.
So here are my terms.
No, there are no terms. The mystery will continue. The mystery will continue.
Just stop. Are you going to play it at the conference? Because the other day you said you were on the campus and you were shredding tasty licks, but none of us were there to see it. Ha ha. Well, we're going to be at the conference, some of us. Are you going to play your guitar and entertain us?
Hold on for a second. No, the answer is no. But
of course not.
Let me see if I can find. Hold on for a second. Let me see here. Hold on. Let's see. I don't have anything on this computer. I thought I did. I thought I had some fancy Jimmy licks on this. Oh, see, I've got calls hanging up. Let me see if I've got Do I have any here? I may not have. Oh, I was going to do a full teaser here. Hold on for a second. Let's see what.
You love to tease us, don't you? That's your specialty.
Okay. Well, if I have something over here, let me see. Let's see. Hang on. Wow. I don't have. I thought I had. Wow. Okay. I've got stuff buried. 96. Oh, hold on for a second. Let me try this. 96. Yeah, I can't find my. Okay, I've got.
You can't find.
I was looking for some songs, and for some reason, they're not popping up on this computer. And let me try this.
Hopefully, they didn't get deleted.
Oh no, I've got.
Hey, the other day you flashed the inside of that board. I think of you on Christina's show, and you put the camera and showed all that stuff there. Man, that's a complicated setup you've got there. It's like, holy crap. You've got a lot going on there. People have no idea.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
I do.
It's awesome.
Okay,
People have no idea how many. Talk about multitasking. Jesus.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, let me get to these other calls. I was going to play you some music,
quick,
but.
Next Thursday, Kubrick movie trivia night. I am ready, and I know that's why you're ditching out tomorrow, because you're not ready. And so you can run, but you can't hide, Jimmy. And I got one warm-up question for you real quick, okay? Let's see if you know this.
Okay.
Okay? In Eyes Wide Shut, that was the longest production film. It made the Guinness Book of World History for the longest hours filming, or the longest days filming. How many days did they film?
How many days did they film? I'll give you that answer next. I'll give you that answer next Thursday. Have a great night, Deb.
Hey, I'll see you at the conference. I know you'll be stealth, but we'll see you eventually.
Have a great night. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye, hon.
Bye. All right. I'm not going to, Deb, great phone call. I'm not going to get buried into trivia when I've got people on hold. I'm not going to do it. Not going to do it. Let's see who's up next. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy. It's Carrie in Palm Springs.
I knew
the real Carrie.
Yeah, I knew you were calling tonight after that after my comment earlier. I had the feeling. How you doing, Carrie?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I got to take sort of a night off. Right?
Yeah.
Interviewed Avi earlier in the day, and then hung out on Twitter and YouTube, and a little bit over in the Spreaker chat too as well. So it was a great fun night. I've got to be up. I've got to be up at 7 a.m. I've got a hugely long day in front of me. So there you go. What's on your mind, Carrie?
Well, good for you. Well, thank you for such an amazing interview with Avi Loeb, and you always get him on the show. Thank you so much. He is one of my favorite guests. I'm so excited about his Galileo project. I really think he's actually going to find something, and I just am so proud of how courageous he's going to be and is by creating this project. And I would like some syrup with my pancakes, because I think we're going to find more pancakes.
He's. I told him. Both on and off of the air, dude. You better be ready, because you are going to have a lot of stuff. You're going to have a lot of work. It's going to be great, but you're also going to find out what so many in the UFO community have been talking about. Sightings go on all day, all night, every day of the year. And you're going to have automated systems out there scanning the skies in real time, all of the sky, all of the time. Oh, man. I mean, they're going to lose their minds. They don't have any idea. And hopefully he'll get to see the beer can, and I'll be vindicated. So there you go.
It was a can of syrup, I think. Well, interesting enough, regarding the pancake shape.
Yes.
It makes sense because it would have more surface area than a cigar shape to reflect the sun and act as some sort of a solar panel that could fuel the craft. So I believe that the data, the conclusion that he deduced that he believes that the craft is pancake shaped really makes a lot of sense. Like if he said it was, all the data pointed to it was a zigzag shape, that wouldn't make any logical sense, correct?
Yeah.
So the fact that it's this pancake shape, that in of itself is data that's starting to point in the direction of an intelligently designed craft. It's not asymmetrical, it's not bulbous, it's not shaped like a meteor, it's a pancake.
Yeah, well, he brings up that point. If it was spherical, then you'd have, and it was spinning, you're not going to have those changes. Right, and light reflection from the sun. You're not going to have those changes. So that would give the indication of a spherical object, spinning or not, right? Okay, so there's that. But he also, and I meant to get to this today, but and I was thinking about it, but it's what happens in an interview. But it was this point. He didn't say it was flat and square. He didn't say it was flat and triangular. He didn't say, right? He didn't say it was shaped like a stop sign. He didn't say, no, he said pancake. Why? You know what I mean? As opposed to triangular or square, or maybe it was just flat and pancake is the word that he used. But pancake says to me flying saucer. That's what it does. That's what I think of, right?
Well, it's aerodynamic. It's spherical. If it's pancake shape, that means it can flip over, because he did mention that its motion was tumbling. So if it's flipping over end on end, so you're able to take advantage of both sides of the object, both surfaces that are equal, then you're getting twice the amount of solar energy absorption.
Right. Now you are the smart cookie in the room. You're the smart pancake. In that, tumbling in what direction? Right? Because that would indicate a lot of different things. I don't have anything flat in here. It's kind of strange. Oh, okay, I got a tape measure. And it's sort of round. Okay. So he's indicating that it was tumbling this is the sun, and it's tumbling this way. Okay,
I'm listening to you, not watching you, so I can't see what you're doing.
But what if it was tumbling in the opposite direction? What if it was tumbling this way? Right? So that's a different kind of tumble. What if it was tumbling at an angle? That's a different kind of tumble. Would the data would you be able to pull the data out that would be consistent to show you that the tumble was at an angle, the tumble was a flat tumble, the tumble was a sideways tumble? I am sure that as the numbers are spit out and they repeat, then you are able to see what kind of tumble it is, right? Okay, because not all tumbles are the same. And or backwards or sideways or I said backwards. What about reverse? So
could be going in a curlicue.
Yes,
formation.
yes, yeah. Corkscrew. So with all of that, he looked at the data. He says it was shaped like a pancake, and all that says to me is Mars attacks. I'm just saying. That's what I'm thinking.
That movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm. It is. Yes.
Isn't that the noise they made? The little sound.
Yeah. Because I have my Mars attacks dude around here somewhere. I have my ack. But which is different. Man, I've got calls on hold. I feel so bad. You know what, Carrie? Let me say good night. Can I say good night?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You have a wonderful night. You have an early morning tomorrow. I want you to sleep well. Have a little, milk and cookies before bed so you have a good night's sleep, and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for everything you do for all of us, all of this Fader family. We love you. We just are so grateful, and thank Professor Avi Loeb again for being on the show.
Thank you, Carrie, and have a great, safe night and weekend, and I'll see you here on Monday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night.
Carrie in Palm Springs, and I just chased her off the phone, and thank you for letting me do that, Carrie, because I wanted to get one more call in. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. You're live.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hi, who's this?
This is Mark. How are you? I'm calling from Salt Lake.
Hi, Mark from Salt Lake. You've got exactly 60 seconds, and I'm doing this so I don't carry guilt.
Oh, okay. My question is, if you could choose anyone on this planet to represent the humans, if E.T. landed tomorrow, who would you pick?
Giorgio Tsoukalos.
Why would you pick George?
He deserves it. I would say Eric Von Daniken, but Eric would go, give it to Giorgio. But Giorgio, look, some of the obvious, I can tell you who I wouldn't pick. Neil deGrasse Tyson. Nah, he's at the back of the line.
No.
Yeah, he's at the back of the line. Avi Loeb would be great. You know who would just be thrilled? Linda Moulton Howe would lose her mind, right? Okay.
Jimmy, that's who I would pick.
Yeah, I know. She deserves it, and she would just lose her mind. She would lose her mind. You know who else would be great though? And I've got 5 seconds. Richard Bleepin Dolan deserves a seat at the table too as well. So maybe we should have a delegation. Maybe we should have a delegation where it's like even-handed. But Avi Loeb, oh man, you know what? He has done so much for this planet, and will continue to do so. With that, Mark, you're going to hear me roll credits. I got to get on out of here, man. Have a great, safe, fun, amazing weekend, and I'll see you right back here on Monday.
Okay. Have a great weekend, Jimmy. Thank you.
You too, Mark. Thank you. And with that wraps another week here. Immediately on Monday, I'll be back. We're going to do a whole thing, man. We're going to do a world premiere on this movie trailer, the movie poster. The director's going to be here. It's going to be great. But all of that is a surprise, okay? All right, Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Dennis, and Kevin. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast owned and copyrighted 2021 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. All right, no Fader night tomorrow. I got to work. But I'll see everybody on Monday. Have a great weekend. It's now time to fade to black.